RandomArc Entertainment presents ReD, Book 1, The Dark Pale Perspective, written and performed by Lashley-Johnstone. Chapter 31, The Crimson Road, Part 2. May 1992. The girl squatted at the end of the bar in Birmingham, Alabama, her home away from home. The girl's name was Kaya Hennessy, and she was drunk, but quietly. Her inebriation at a low, controllable frequency, a kind of control only gained through experience, a lot of experience. She had just recently recovered from a tragic event, one of many. No original ideas anymore, right? The event left her lost, more so than usual, drifting, falling. There was a part of herself that she never knew was there, a part that she had misplaced, lost. If she was honest with herself, she knew it was there, for 9 months, 6 days, 17 hours, and 3 minutes to be precise. Kaya, of course, had grown attached to this living example of a better version of herself, a version that could get it right, rise up. Maybe she would rise up. That would be nice. Kaya would most probably never find out exactly how far or wide her little angel could actually spread her wings, due to the fact that she would never see her again. In the moments before the agency came into her private hospital room and took her, Kaya remembered the man in black and the man in white. She knew that the man in black was real. He was evil. He had her daughter. But the man in white, that memory was glassy, out of phase. At the time, Kaya herself was locked in an intentional, yet not self-administered narcotic haze that blocked out the physical and psychological pain that Kaya didn't know wouldn't have been there in the first place if she was an oracle, and could see the bigger picture, the grander scheme of things, which she wasn't, and she couldn't. Not at that point, anyway. That was 5 months ago, and images still plagued Kaya's every sunny day in Birmingham, Alabama. The winds outside were picking up in ferocity, and the door into the dimly lit bar kept blowing open and slamming shut. Even though it was sunset, and the star burned brightly, there was something about the weather, and the unusual stillness of her local and regular haunt that seemed wrong, or right. Kaya wasn't very good at distinguishing between the two, especially of late, thanks to her addiction, something she carried around with her, that weighed her down, and that she wore like a shield whenever she felt cornered, which was a lot, in order to justify her selfish actions, like not attempting to get clean of the various drugs she administered while carrying her angel, one almost destined to fall. The doctors had informed Kai that the baby was completely healthy, by some miracle. But a lot of the damage that could have been done throughout the pregnancy sometimes didn't start to manifest itself until adolescence. By then she would be the police's problem. And she would be. She would be. Kaya smiled at that thought with a sick sense of pride as she downed her Jim Beam, repeating the last 4 words of her most recent thought as she swallowed, signaling the oversized wall of meat that was Bill the barman, her trusted friend and unofficial guardian, for another round. "Add that to your tab, darling," he said with a smile as he performed his second nature in life, sliding the glass into Kaya's steady hand, poised and ready to grip, and the final telltale clinking sound of the ring on her right hand hitting against the overused tumbler. "When did you open up that one?" "About 5 months ago," he said, smirking, always happy to accommodate the only female who seemed to take him seriously, not just find threatening, although he was also that. "It's been open since you came back from those white coats down in Southside." He leaned his enormous bulk against the side of the scratched and wounded bar top, lowering his voice. "Seems a little higher than usual," Kaya sighed. I just keep remembering it so many different ways. I mean, I was out of your mind, that, but there was something else. A man. The one who took your little girl? That part doesn't change. I mean, I signed the fucking papers, but there was someone else there. I think. It was most probably everyone who had ever been angry with you thus far in your life joining you in that room on that night, KK. You said that's how you get when you take the plunge into anything that heavy. It's the way it is for some people. The demons come in. It was like that for me too, back in the day. Kaya sipped her drink. The memory of the man in white, dark white, it growing foggy again. Ah, fuck it! I can't focus on that white guy, that guy in white. Was it white? I thought he was my doctor, my attending. You know what it's like. After word got out that the agency was taking her away, you know, most people don't want to be around girls like me when we get mad, and I was mad. But that's the thing, I was mad. I remember the man in white made me feel calm. He was the one that put me out, that took away my rage, even though I was too weak to lash out. He knew it was there, and he knew. Kaya rubbed her head and glanced to see Bill growing more interested. He knew that the man that took her was evil, and the man in black knew him, and somehow there was some kind of mutual dislike, but unquestionable respect. I don't know. Never heard you talking like this before, Missy. Last few months barely heard a peep out of you. You put something in my drink again, Bill? Kaya asked, looking more mischievous than wary. You told me to stop doing that, remember? Ah, yeah, I ruined that one nice lawyer's shoes. That you did. And did you pay the bill? No, sir, you did not. I see what you did there. What's that? Pay the bill? He sighed with exasperation. Young lady, I think that you're fixating on this other guy because he somehow made you feel better in a moment when no other feeling would be on the cards, at least not on my cards. And the more you think about it, the more it's going to make you seize up, and you can't afford to seize up. I certainly can. You coming back to work or what? Soon, Kaya said, taking another sip. When exactly is soon? Asked Bill. Couple of weeks, maybe. That's too long, KK. Look, B, just please give me a little more time. I need to clear my head. Won't get any clearer with that pretty little brain of yours swimming around in that shit, he grunted. What are you, my bartender or my doctor? I'm technically your manager. Technically, I'm not working. And technically, I don't give a fuck. That was when the door blew open again, and the sun was brighter than Kaya had ever seen it before. The wind was picking up, and people outside were power walking for shelter. The starry, gale-force spectacle grabbed Kaya and Bill's attention. The only two people in the currently dead bar. The door outside began to debate with the wind on its direction, and before long, the door slammed shut again. The lower part of the outside now masked by the door's structure, and the dirty window above now again reflecting the brightening sun into Kaya and Bill's eyes. The voice from behind them made them both jump, something that neither of them did easily. It was the origin of the accent that caught them off guard. Also the strange, almost musical quality of the sound itself. The sentence. It was emanating from a man that neither of them saw enter the bar. That was the first thought when all pairs of their visible eyes met. May I join you, two lovely citizenry people with legs? The accent was Scottish, an accent that Kaya had never heard live, only on, and it shamed her to think of it, spoofed stereotype comedies, or the occasional movie she would only focus on about half of, and forget before the night was out. His words seemed strange as well. Kaya replayed them inwardly, and as she was doing so, the man caught her eye again as he sat on the stool at the opposite end of the bar. His smile was wide. His teeth, they were clinical in the sense of acceptable bling. His eyes flicked down to where Kaya and Bill were standing, stunned by the man who smiled. The man who smiles. "You do have legs, right?" he said. Kaya scanned him. The suit he was wearing was light grey, with various trinkets woven into the elegant design of the three-piece. The jacket was long, figure-hugging. The waistcoat underneath, 6 of 7 buttons fastened. Blood-red shirt underneath that. Collar, a leather collar, no tie. And that was when Kaya noticed his skin. His features were ethnic in origin. Even his hairstyle, which you could see was used to many forms, shapes, and sizes, somehow she knew that, was that of Caribbean descent. But his skin color did not reflect that, as it was grey, but a glowing grey. In this light, he was glowing, but in the full darkness, he would either look zombified in color or perhaps completely invisible. Kaya's first thought was fear, concern, but she found the glow growing on her in a way that could only stem from familiarity. Was this the same man? The man in her room of pain? Her ward of pain? Or at least her latest one in a long line? Maybe. But she decided not to start with that. There was only one entrance into Bill's bar, and she would have remembered him walking in, considering how badly the business had been going lately. So she began with that. "Didn't see you come in," she said, trying not to show her growing interest as she took a drag on her shield of tainted honor, blowing the smoke up to the ceiling, what she would call her senses heightening from a connection to peace, a peace that is also tainted. "No," said the smiling man. The word lasted for a long time, the volume fading towards the end. "I came by owl." He winked at the two of them, sipping from a glass of champagne that they both just noticed appear in his hand. The shape of the glass was alien to the surroundings. Bill didn't even stock champagne. Why would he? They never did much in ways of celebrating in this place. Bill's next words echoed Kaya's thoughts. "Where the hell did you get that?" "I commandeered it from the festivities." "And where were these festivities taking place?" Kaya said, surprised at her words for some reason. "Oh, I like your speech pattern, love. Reminds me of home." "And where is home?" Bill asked, growing visibly more suspicious. "Somewhere else. And it's the only place you can get this stuff," he said, holding up the glass, almost with a bitter sense of pride. Kaya watched as the liquid bubbled in the spiral-shaped glass. Before her eyes, the liquid began to change from a traditional champagne color to a purple, mixed with a tinge of turquoise. Bill tensed. "Look, son, it's just alcohol we drink in here." "This is alcohol. It's what we call Aquitanian courage." "And what in God's name is that?" The man began to laugh, his smile growing even wider. "It keeps you grounded. Crossing over can have an effect on perception. Weather changes can occur." He raised his hand slowly to point at his right temple. "Both in the mind?" He slowly pointed back to the exit of the bar, to the growing winds and the now billowing grey clouds. "And out there." It was as if the room stopped ticking forwards in time for just a split second. A second that wasn't split entirely down the middle. Nothing ever is. Bill began to chuckle. "You saying that if you drink that stuff you can control the weather? Funny man." He took a sip of his own tumbler of Jack Daniels with ice. It's more of a question of what kind of control would someone need to obtain in order to gain the knowledge to make such a beverage. Or you can drink it and hope that an outdoor physical education class, always cruelly placed in the middle of a muddy field in early February, gets rained off thanks to a previous night of irresponsible transdimensional binging. Whatever helps you sleep at night, right? Bill's laughter had stopped, and Kaya's certainty that this man was the man from her memory, or dream, or hallucination. It was a memory, darling. The hazy glow of pain makes me sparkle a little. And by the way, if in a couple of decades you see some pasty English guy, viewed through a lens of his own, simplifying that dreary spectacle and amplifying it beyond the measured rationality of this plane you call existence, and then you find him dead in a bath of money covered in glitter. He paused, looking both Kaya and Bill in their eyes, their ever-widening eyes. He leant forward and smiled. Copyright, Dr. Gryson Wolfe, 1992, Birmingham, Alabama. Won't have him getting used to making money off my idea, just because he's all linear and shit. What is wrong with living all at once, eh? Although I did come here to get away from all that. Bill was simply stunned by the words coming out of the man's mouth. Kaya could tell from just a quick glance during one of his few pauses. But, rather than comment on any of that for the time being, Kaya chose to refer to something simpler, since she could see that this guy didn't like the idea of what they called simple. Shit. She was doing it now, making the separation between them and him. But why? His words were just words. He could just be some idiot with access to a glassblower and a guy who makes mood rings. She glanced again at the champagne glass, the color continuing to change, then blend and change again, then back to him, the man, Gryson Wolfe. Dr. Gryson Wolfe, the man who glowed in different lights, lights of the heavens and lights of the mind. Rather than the haze she was locked in back in Southside, now that her mind was clearer. The wound was less fresh. He glowed in a way that gave her something back. And that was maybe why her attitude remained enlightened rather than disbelieving. That was Bill's paranoid path to walk. You on the run, sunshine? I'm on the phase, sweetheart. His words were matter of fact and confusing. On the phase, she asked, but more to herself, mumbling. Gryson didn't register the question, seemingly. I'm trying to deal with the ripple. There's... He paused again, taking a sip of the multicolored liquid in the glass, which itself seemed to be moving like a live animation. There are a lot of butterflies that want my head, and they're just dying to suckle upon it. Just then, there came a noise from outside. The light was fading, and the clouds seemed to become visibly more violent, aggressive, and there was a sound of something swarming at a distance that was lessening, greatly lessening. Gryson's attitude didn't change. In fact, he seemed unruffled, yet eerily focused, but not just on the bizarre weather and blaring yet invisible demonic swarm, but everything, all of his surroundings, people, objects, extended peripheries that were beginning to creep their way into Kaya's own mind. Her visual and audible perceptions. She instantly knew it was because she was open to it. She was letting it in. She had to. It's always the way with crossing over. Can't go back though. Not this time. Had the send-off I needed and deserved. For now, anyway. You guys got any guns? Again, the question caught Kaya off guard, but she answered it honestly. 3. One of them has a damaged barrel, though. Hold on now, Bill began, but was cut off. Kaya could even feel Bill do the opposite of what she was doing. He was shutting himself off from what was going on. even if he could see and hear the things outside begin to morph and change beyond rational measure. You can do lots with a gun barrel. You can even ski with one if you're careful enough and have the correct serotonin level. Sounds dangerous, Kaya said, going with it and feeling the beginnings of a smile that she hadn't felt for months, maybe even years. It's powdery. And what do we need guns for? Bill said, exasperatedly, raising his voice. Kaya put both of her hands on Bill's rough, gigantic arms that were peppered with scars from various altercations throughout the years. Some, many, in defense of Kaya herself. For the butterflies! What fucking butterflies? Bill shouted, thumping the bar, although he was also glancing around in slight fear due to the sounds that were alien to his ears. Even he now knew that he was in denial. First step is to admit that you're not going crazy, Billy boy, Grayson said, as he looked out of the now darkened window. The occasional spark that turned into fire outside on the street was now beginning to illuminate what shape belonged to that demonic swarm. Some kind of humanoid-looking insects with beating wings. They were dark, angry, and were heading for them. You know my name, Billy said, sounding scared now. A tremor haunted his voice, a tremor that she hadn't heard since the last time he was shot. Heading for me, not you. I'll take those guns now. You got it, Bill said, reaching behind the bar and placing 3 lines of defense on the top. All 3 were handguns, 2 black, 1 silver. Grayson took the silver one, the one with the barrel damage, and examined the sizable dent. I can make that work. You sure? Kaya said, checking her gun, one she kept here to keep away from prying eyes. She didn't have a license, not a legal one, and Bill had always nagged her for it, saying that he could get in trouble for storing it. But, as Kaya looked out of the open door, the ferocity of the wind forcing thin glass at the top of the door inwards, sending the shards themselves in messy circuits of the bar's interior. She knew that whatever was out there, whatever was after Grayson, didn't belong here. From what she had seen, heard, and felt, Grayson didn't belong here either. She could be blaming him. Bill probably was. If the demons followed him here, it was his fault. But if he had chosen to walk into a different bar, would her and Bill just have wandered around aimlessly in the storm, putting themselves in God knows how much danger? And worse, the lack of knowledge. The lack of a reason for this sudden hell on earth. But with Grayson, they had that knowledge, and therefore a possible way out of this. And let's face it, a more interesting life. Kai was also, when it came down to it, a thrill seeker, a thrill addict or adrenaline junkie, if she was honest with herself. In her head, as she stared from Grayson to the abyss outside and back again, she recited her mantra for the first time aloud, and she was surprised, and yet unsurprised, to hear Grayson's voice speak the same words at the same time. She wasn't looking at him. He was looking ahead while finishing his own liquid thrill in a moving glass. These words had got Kaya this far, and she knew that they were about to carry her further than her wildest dreams imagined. Between thought and action comes temptation. Always.